The prosecution has told you a fairy tale. And as fairy tales go, it was quite compelling. It had all the requisite villains and heroes. The woman who dropped a house on Damian Smith. But like all fairy tales, it was a work of fiction. My client did not kill Damian Smith. Yes, Laura Spencer hated Damian. I challenge you to find someone, anyone, who would admit to liking him. But did she want him dead? Any more than Catherine Bell, Bobby Jones, Lucy Coe? What about Commissioner Scorpio? Luke Spencer? How about Edward Quartermain? What about an old foe of Damian's crime lord father, Frank Smith? The point is, ladies and gentlemen, any one of those people that I mentioned is as likely, if not more so, to have committed this crime as Laura Spencer. But the prosecution would have you believe that they can hardly see your faces over this mountain of evidence. Okay, I'll bite. Let's examine this evidence one piece at a time. First, we have a wooden baseball bat on which my client's fingerprints were found. Well, there's a jaw dropper. Her husband bought the bat. She held it in her hands before and after the cellophane wrap was removed. Let's engage our brains, people. If Laura Spencer had committed this crime, it would be more damning if her fingerprints were not on the bat. It would show she had the forethought to wipe the bat clean before she dropped it on the burning floor. Unless, of course, she was wearing gloves. And I submit to you that that is precisely what the murderer did. Second, we have this videotape on which we witnessed a confrontation between my client and the deceased. Well, what does that prove? Only that a confrontation took place, which Mrs. Spencer freely admits to. You heard the testimony. Confrontations with Damian Smith were commonplace in this town. It's just my client's misfortune that hers took place the day before he was murdered. Third, we have the testimony of Detective Garcia, a good cop under intense pressure to solve this case at any costs. Let me tell you a secret, folks. Good cops have no power. They do what they're told. And that's what Detective Garcia did. He scooped up a bunch of circumstantial evidence, shoved it over to the district attorney, who followed tradition and rushed to judgment. Fourth, let's not forget those damning phone records that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that my client called Damian Smith the day that he was killed. Shocking, isn't it? Have you ever heard a more clear-cut example of criminal intent? Now, what are we to glean from this? That if you talk to somebody on the phone within 24 hours of their murder, that you're suddenly a suspect? It's absurd. Laura Spencer told you why she made that phone call. She called to settle her son's gambling debt. Now, that certainly seems reasonable to me, and I'm willing to bet that each and every one of you would have done the same thing for your 13-year-old. So, that's it. And when we put it all together, when we put all this evidence together, what do we have? Zip. Zilch. Bupkis. A great big nothing. But Justus, I hear you say, what about the real evidence? Come out, wherever you are! The prosecution has twisted itself inside out to weave this fairy tale, and they've cast my client in the role as villain. Well, you know what? You know what? Now it's my turn. It's my turn, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened that night. Let's suppose that Damian Smith got in somebody's face earlier that day. Now, that's not unusual in and of itself. But let's say this day, Damian, he just went a little bit too far. And that infuriated this person. And there was a fight, which infuriated Damian. Now let's remember, this is a man who didn't like to get his suits messy, much less be on the losing end of any battle. So to Damian, this was the moment the gloves came off. No more pretensions at civility. Now it was war. So after Damian left, let's say this person became uneasy, because we all know Damian had no scruples. There was no low, too low for him to stoop. So this person decides that they've got to take a walk to clear his or her head. And they wind up at Ward House. And they see Damian go inside. And that's suspicious. So they follow him. And they catch him in the act of lighting a torch. Now I submit to you that this person acted not with the intent to kill, but out of reflex to stop him. So they picked up the nearest thing they could find, in this case, a baseball bat, and they hit him. And the night was chilly, and this person was wearing gloves. And it's possible that this person was horrified at the sight of Damian falling dead on that floor, and the fire igniting and spreading simultaneously. It's also possible that this person tried unsuccessfully to save Damian's life and was ultimately the one who pulled the fire alarm. Damian Smith was a cipher. He sucked the lifeblood out of this community. He undermined, he destroyed, he corrupted. He was unwanted and he was unwelcome. So why did he stay around? He stayed around so he could rub our faces in his evil. That's the kind of thing Damian Smith did for fun. And you would trade Laura Spencer's life for his? Knowing what you know about her? And you do know it. You know exactly what kind of woman she is because she showed you. She stood up here on this stand and she told you everything, openly and honestly, because one thing Laura Spencer is not is a coward. If she had killed Damian Smith that night in order to protect those children, she would have said so then. Those are the facts. I know it, you know it, and you damn well better believe that she knows it. The prosecution has not presented an airtight case by any stretch of the imagination. You know what they've given you to take back into that jury room? Circumstance, supposition, fabrication, fairy tale, reasonable doubt? There's enough to choke a horse. And so now it's up to you, each and every one of you, the 12 of this jury, and Laura Spencer, her husband Luke, her son Lucky, their baby Leslie Lou, her family, counting on you. Do the right thing. Go back into that jury room and write a happy ending to this fairy tale. A just ending. Thank you.
Spencer is a very likable woman. There's a certain dignity about her, something in the way she carries herself, an honesty and a truth that shines through her eyes. She's a wife, a mother, community leader. We didn't ask, but I'm willing to bet she's very active in the PTA and bakes her own cookies from scratch. We would all like to invite Laura Spencer to dinner. She's a likable woman. But most killers are. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. Laura Spencer is as cold-blooded a killer as I have ever seen. Damian Smith is dead because she saw fit to end his life. And this is not the first time she appointed herself judge and jury. This has got to stop. Now, the defense would like you to believe that circumstantial evidence is tainted, invalid. What my esteemed colleague would rather you not know is that defendants are convicted on circumstantial evidence all the time. If it looks like a rose and smells like a rose, if you prick your finger when you handle it, it's not a hockey puck, ladies and gentlemen. It's a rose. I agree with Councilman Ward. 1 or 2 pieces of circumstantial evidence, that does not constitute a case. But when you have circumstance after circumstance, all pointing in the same direction, you have left the realm of coincidence. You want to talk about fairy tales, ladies and gentlemen? How about the one where the gloved phantom creeps into Ward House at precisely the time when Damian Smith is preparing to burn it down? Ladies and gentlemen, this woman has got to be stopped. One, the defendant's own sister-in-law, the other one, a close personal friend, got on that witness stand and testified that they had no knowledge of baby James having an ear infection. Only Mrs. Spencer's own word. The word of a woman who needed an excuse for not participating in the Rochester trip. A reason to stay behind that would leave her free to lure Damian Smith to Ward House and finally put an end to the long-standing feud between the Spencers and the Smiths. A killer with an angel's face. That is scary to me, ladies and gentlemen. Laura Spencer has gotten away with murder twice before. I am imploring you, ladies and gentlemen, please let this end here. Do not let this defendant smile real pretty and go away killing again.
If after what you've learned about
Your
Laura
Honor,
Spencer, you can go into
object!
that jury room and come back with a verdict of guilty, you may as well convict yourselves. You may as well convict me.